My beloved child, if you walk away right now, you may miss the warning that heaven is sending personally to you. This is not an ordinary video, nor are these random words. This is the moment when grace is gently touching your soul, the soft yet powerful knocking that is echoing in the depths of your heart. Pause for a moment. Do not rush to scroll past, because an angel is whispering to you through every single word. Not tomorrow, not when you are less busy, but right now, while breath is still in your lungs and your heart is still beating in His grace. I have been knocking at the door of your heart not to condemn you, but to awaken you, not because I need to step in, but because you are about to lose something that cannot be recovered. Sometimes that knocking does not come through glorious miracles, but through a brief trembling in your soul when suddenly everything around you seems to fall apart, so that in the ashes you may hear my voice. I do not knock to make you afraid, but to pull you out of a long stupor where you have grown accustomed to silence, to emptiness, and to no longer expecting any miracle at all. There was someone in the scriptures who once heard that knock, yet did not recognize it at first. It was the Samaritan woman at the well, in the heat of noon, when the whole village avoided her. She came quietly to the well in loneliness, carrying wounds no one could see. Yet it was in that seemingly ordinary moment, when she only meant to draw water as on any other day, that Jesus was already there, waiting. He did not appear in dazzling glory, but began with a simple request: "Give me a drink." Just a small invitation. Yet it was the knock that opened the door to an eternal change. Under the scorching midday sun, she was invited to a well that never runs dry, and from a sinner, she became a herald of the good news. That story is repeating itself today. As you sit here quietly reading these lines, you think it is by chance, but this is your well where the Lord is waiting, and where that knock is sounding once again. Do not take this moment lightly. It may be the spiritual appointment the Lord has been waiting to have with you for a very long time. He does not knock on your heart with loud signs, but through moments that seem meaningless: a video you accidentally open, a line you never intended to read, a pause in your mind where you do not understand why you suddenly stop. God does not need your perfection to come in. He only needs you to still be willing to open the door. For there are knocks which, if you ignore them, will never sound again in quite the same way. You think you are here merely by coincidence, but in the Lord's design, nothing is random. He has stepped into your schedule amid thousands of tasks, amid daily worries, so that you would arrive at exactly this moment. You think you clicked out of curiosity, but it was His gentle touch on your hand. You think this is just another piece of content, but in truth this is a sacred encounter between your soul and the call of the Creator. Every detail of your life, even the smallest, lies under His sovereign hand. From the breath you inhale to this very moment as you read these words, He has seen and arranged it all beforehand. This moment is not an accident. This is the appointed hour, the hour that heaven marked with your name long ago. If you treat this as something ordinary, you may lose a spiritual opportunity that will never again repeat itself in exactly the same way. Not every door stays open forever. Some doors open only once. And if you walk through, you will enter a new season. But if you ignore it, you will keep wandering in the same old desert. The Lord is knocking, but the door only opens when you respond. My child, do not let familiarity make you forget the sacredness of this moment. For sometimes, just one nod from you is enough to set all of heaven in motion. And if you have ever asked, "Why has God been silent for so long? Why have my prayers not been answered?" then pause and listen. That silence does not mean He is far away. It means He is preparing something deeper, greater, and more enduring than you imagine. He has not forgotten the tears you have shed. He is only waiting for the right time, and that time is now. My child, have you ever thought that everything that happens to you is merely random? That every event, every moment, every time you happen to stop and read, hear, or see something carries no great meaning? But I tell you the truth, nothing is accidental in my plan. For I know the plans I have for you, plans for peace and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. Every step you take, every breath you breathe, even the moments when you feel completely lost, all of it is seen, measured, and arranged by me. You are not here by accident, but according to a design written long ago, waiting only for the right time to unfold. This moment where you are sitting, listening, and sensing your heart being stirred is the appointed hour, set apart just for you. Perhaps you have passed through many seasons that felt barren, many times knocking and hearing no reply. You may have thought that God was silent, that He had forgotten you among billions of people. But my child, I have always been there. It is only that you have not yet seen all that is taking place in the unseen world. I have waited for you, quietly drawing you here through detours that seemed meaningless. When your hand slipped and clicked on this video, when you lifted your head from your weariness and asked yourself, does God still care about me? That was the very moment I was knocking at the door of your heart. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him, dine with him, and he with me. Revelation 3:20. I do not force you to open, because love does not coerce. I only knock softly, just enough for those with ears to hear. Have you ever wondered why I do not knock with thunder, with blazing light, or with a miracle that makes the whole world tremble? It is because I want you to see that I am not only in the great and wondrous things, but also in the smallest details of everyday life. A drop of water falling, a line in a song you hear, a sentence that suddenly makes your heart sink. All these can be my whisper. Do you hear me? I do not enter your life with noise and clamor, for your heart is fragile, fearful, quick to shut down. I choose instead a gentle touch, like a father laying his hand on his child's shoulder, just enough for you to know that I am still here, still waiting for you to come home. But sadly, many people hear that knock and do not recognize it. They think it is just a passing emotion, a coincidence. Some feel their hearts tremble, but then they reassure themselves, I'm just tired. That's all. And so they scroll on. They move past it and return to the old cycle of yesterday. My child, do not be like them. Do not treat this moment lightly, for it might be the only moment in your life when the door of heaven opens wide, waiting for you to step in. There are knocks which, if you ignore them, will not sound again. For I do not keep knocking forever on a door sealed by indifference. When I knock, it is not because I need to be welcomed in, but because I know your soul is withering day by day without my presence. I know that in this world, you have grown too used to taking care of yourself. You have been wounded, disappointed, and so you have learned to build walls. Each old wound has become another brick separating you from me. But, my child, have you ever realized that this very wall is also the prison that holds your soul captive? I do not knock to destroy, but to set you free. I want to take you out of the endless loop of exhaustion, where you always feel you must be strong, must be fine, while inside you are empty. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 1:1-8. Let me come in not to teach you how to pretend to live differently, but to teach you how to truly live, to be honest with yourself, honest with me, and honest with the grace you were always meant to receive. Do you know, this moment is not just an invitation, it is a miracle. I have arranged countless events, countless encounters, just to bring you here. If you could see the whole picture I am painting, you would understand every wound, every mistake, every tear has helped shape this very moment. For I am the one who can use even pain to bring forth good. We know that all things work together for good to those who love God. Romans 8:2-8. You may not understand everything, but you can choose to trust, and when you trust, everything begins to move. I have not come to you because you are perfect. I have come because I love you. You have run away. You have kept silent. You have shut your heart. Yet I am still here. My love does not change, does not wear out over the years, does not diminish because of your failures. I still wait patiently for you like the father waiting for his prodigal son to return. Do you remember? The son had only resolved in his heart to return, and his father was already running to embrace him. Luke 1:5-20. I am the same. As soon as you crack open the door of your heart, I will step in, not carrying judgment, but carrying healing. Look back over your life. How many times have you gone through something and later thought, if only I had realized sooner? But do not be afraid, for today is not too late. I am still knocking. The knock may sound different now, no longer as loud as before, but softer, gentler, and that is precisely what makes it more sacred. It is no longer a shout demanding your attention, but the quiet call of grace. If you open the door, you will not only hear me, but you will also find yourself again in my embrace. And remember this, some people hear the knock only once and let their whole lives be changed forever. Others hear it hundreds of times and still never open. The difference is not in the sound, but in the heart. If you only stand inside, listening without responding, the knock will slowly fade amid the noise of this world. But if you open even just a narrow crack, light will rush in, and from that moment on, you will never be the same. For once the light has entered, the darkness can no longer stay. My child, I knock at the door not only to rescue you from losing your way, but also to entrust you with a new calling. When you allow me to enter, you are not only restored, you are also sent. You will become the very knocking for someone else, someone who is also lost, someone who also needs to hear that I am still searching for them. I want to use you to reconnect the flow of love that was once broken. You will no longer be the one who merely searches, but the one who is commissioned and sent out. Therefore, do not let this moment pass by in vain. This is not just a video, an article, or a fleeting feeling. This is an appointed time, the hour heaven has waited for you to step into. When you respond, what I am about to do will not only change this day, it will change the direction of your life. Believe that what is coming is not random, and then you will understand that the silence I once allowed in your past was to prepare you for this very moment, where every knock receives an answer. My child, you know there are seasons in life that seem to stretch on without end. Every prayer seems to rise and then sink into emptiness. Every longing dissolves like a wisp of smoke in a silent sky. There are times you sit in the night, tears falling as your heart whispers, Lord, are you still there? I hear it all. My child, I am there, right in the very silence you have called cold. But that silence is not a sign of distance. It is the space where I am preparing you, reshaping your heart so it becomes deep enough, strong enough, and steady enough for what I am about to give. Be still, and know that I am God. Psalm 4:6-1-0. It is not that I am unwilling to answer, but that if I answered too soon, you would not yet be able to carry what I long to place in your hands. I have seen every night you tossed and turned, and every tear you wiped away quickly so no one would notice. Every sigh of your heart I hear, every prayer that never made it into words. I understand. I know there are days when you bow your head amidst the noise and ask inside, why? Lord, do you make me wait so long? But, my beloved child, in that waiting, I am not standing still. I am working in the hidden places where your eyes cannot yet see. I am clearing the way, changing circumstances, people, and environments around you, so that when the time comes, everything will come together in perfect harmony, just as a seed lies still in the cold earth, seeing no light and hearing no wind. Yet in that very darkness, life is being formed. You have felt abandoned, but I have never left you. If I am silent, it is because I am testing and deepening your faith, so that your roots go down into me and not into things that quickly fade away. Sometimes you want me to come at once, but I know that if I came too early, your faith would still be fragile and easily broken. I love you too much to give you shallow blessings, like a potter who will not pull the clay from the kiln before it is firm. I will not hastily entrust you with great things while your heart is still unready. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. Exodus 1:4-1:4. The silence is not a punishment. It is the place where I am training you in the quiet of heaven. You may feel lost in a blur of days, asking and asking without seeing any change. But remember, Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before hearing my voice from the burning bush. David was hunted like a wild animal before he wore the crown. Joseph lay in a dark prison before he stood beside the throne. And Jesus, my son, lived 30 quiet years before speaking a single sentence that shook the world. So if you are in a season of silence, do not fear. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. Every quiet stretch has a purpose, and my delay is never a broken promise. I know you want to see results now. You want to see miracles, doors flung open, light clearly marking your path. But faith does not grow when everything is visible. It grows when nothing seems clear at all. If you only believe when the way is bright, that is not yet faith. It is only feeling. I want you to learn to trust me, even when every door seems shut and every answer seems withheld. It is in that darkness that your faith becomes real, the kind of faith that moves heaven and stirs my heart. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. You think I am silent, but in truth I am speaking in another language, the language of preparation and timing. I remember the time you prayed through tears and whispered, Lord, I have no strength left. I heard you, but I did not remove the weight at once, because if I lifted it too quickly, you would never learn that true strength is found in surrender. I did not abandon you in the storm. I allowed you to stand in the middle of it so you would see that it was my hand keeping you from being swept away. When you thought you were drowning, it was my hand that held you up. That is why I did not save you in the way you wanted, but in the way you truly needed. My child, remember this, my silence has never meant my absence. It is the season when I am working quietly, patiently, carefully, and full of love. When I have not yet spoken, it does not mean I have not heard. When I have not yet acted, it does not mean I have not seen. When you feel most alone, that is often when I am closest to you. You need only be still and believe, because every prayer you thought had been forgotten is held safely in my hands, waiting for the right time to bear fruit. And understand this, my child, every waiting period in me is preparation for a new season. Just as a tree must pass through a cold winter before it can blossom in the spring, so your soul must pass through wordless days to learn how to hear my voice in the depths. Do not judge my heart simply because you have not yet seen the miracle. I am still working wonders, only in a different way, a way that you will recognize only when you look back and say through tears, you were there all along. Lord, When you allow your heart to grow quiet, you will begin to hear the gentle sound of grace, like a soft wind moving through a barren wilderness, like a quiet pulse of hope in a heart you thought had grown cold. And in that very moment, you will realize that my silence was never empty. It was filled with great plans just beginning to sprout. For there is no sound that echoes more deeply than a silence that has been made holy. One day you will understand, if it had not been for those months and years of my silence, you would never treasure my voice the way you do now. You will see that faith is not born in the answer, but in the waiting. Maturity does not come from receiving the promise, but from holding on to hope when everything seems to fall apart. And when you see this, you will stop complaining and stop panicking, and you will begin to give thanks, even for the empty spaces that once seemed so meaningless. My beloved child, the season of silence has finished its work. Your soul has been trained, your heart has learned humility, and your faith has sunk its roots deeper into me. Now, as light begins to stream through the cracks, you will feel the warmth of a new chapter. This is the moment when I begin to whisper, no longer through silence, but through movement, a gentle movement, yet strong enough to stir heaven. For every prayer you have prayed, I have heard, and now I am preparing to lead you into a season of answers, where every knock carries with it the promise of an open door. My child, there is something few people realize. Every time you listen to my word, every time you bow in prayer, an invisible battle is taking place around you. It is not a battle between people, but between light and darkness, between heaven and the forces that want to steal your attention. From the moment you chose to open your heart, the spiritual world began to shift. My angels have taken their positions, waiting for my command to carry out what I have ordained for you. At the same time, the enemy is not standing still. It trembles and schemes, trying to distract you, to sow doubt and delay, so that you will fail to recognize the call that is opening a door over your life. Be sober-minded and watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. This battle is not fought in flesh and blood, but in your mind, where I am knocking, and where the enemy is trying to shatter your faith. You think you are simply sitting still, listening, but in reality your soul is standing in the middle of a battlefield. Every second you choose to stay focused, you are breaking another arrow of the enemy. Every doubtful thought you entertain is a door you are quietly closing to heaven's work. The enemy cannot block my voice, so it uses the only tactic it has left to steal your attention. It whispers small but dangerous thoughts. It's just emotion. You're imagining this. You can always listen later, and if you accept those whispers, my voice will slowly fade into the background. You do not lose me, but you do lose the appointed moment I have given you to encounter me. There are instances where, if you would only lift your head, the miracle would already be there, but because you hesitate and doubt, you pass by it without knowing. I see it all. My child, I see when you decide to pray and your phone suddenly rings, when you open the scriptures and your mind drifts back to unfinished worries. I know you are not doing it on purpose, but this is exactly the strategy of darkness, to keep you busy, to make you delay, to convince you that tomorrow is fine. Yet heaven does not move on the word tomorrow. Everything in me is today. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Hebrews 3:1-5. For a day will come when the knocking seems to stop, not because I have ceased to call, but because your heart has become so accustomed to the noise of this world that it can no longer hear me. My beloved child, do not take your focus lightly. In the spiritual realm, attention is the currency of faith. Wherever you place your attention, There you open a door for power to move. When you turn your heart toward me, heaven connects with you. When you let your heart drift toward the world, darkness finds an opening. I do not tell you this to frighten you, but so you will understand the strength you already carry, that a single upward glance can make the enemy tremble. When you bow your head, heaven bends low. When you open your heart, I come in. This power does not lie in great outward actions, but in small, hidden decisions between two knocks, mine and the knock of the world. Do not think of yourself as weak just because you have to fight distractions. I see the battle within you, and I am proud. For the enemy never attacks what is without value. It only attacks the place where blessing is about to be born. The doubts you are facing are not a sign of failure, but a sign that a door is about to open. The closer you come to the miracle, the more intense the battle feels, because darkness knows it is about to lose its ground. Do not be afraid when you feel your heart wavering. It is only the echo of the tremor before the earth splits open and life breaks forth. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap, if we do not lose heart. Galatians 6:9. When you choose to stand firm in the midst of these attacks, you cause all of heaven to rejoice. Every time you choose faith instead of doubt, prayer instead of complaint, silence instead of resentment, that is a spiritual victory. I know it is not easy. I know there are moments when you want to give up, to go back to what is familiar. But my child, remember this: every step backward is an opportunity for darkness to slip in, while every step of faith, however small, is a lamp you light in the thick of night. And it is these very lamps, when joined together, that will make you realize the night is no longer as dark as you once thought. My child, this battle will not last forever. When you persevere in guarding your heart, when you dare to believe even when you see nothing, I will move my hand. My angels are waiting for my command. And when I speak, no power can stop the blessing I have prepared. But before the blessing comes, you must pass through this moment, the moment when every emotion, every thought seems to pull you away from me. Do not let the enemy deceive you into thinking this is just an ordinary moment. No. This is a defining moment where you decide whether you will stay or turn away. And when you choose to stay, everything begins to change. Not immediately in what your eyes can see, but in the way heaven begins to open a path. You will find your heart becoming calmer even without answers. You will realize you are no longer afraid even before the miracle appears. This is the sign that you have won the battle of the soul, where faith no longer demands proof, but rests in a simple, silent yes. You have crossed the line between doubt and trust. And what awaits you on the other side is not only peace, but the breaking of chains, the place where my word begins to act, where light pierces through walls that once seemed impossible to bring down. Therefore, guard your heart. Do not let a careless moment rob you of a harvest of blessing. Every time you stay awake in spirit, heaven draws nearer. The battle is quieting, and the door to a new season is opening, not because you fight well, but because you have allowed me to fight for you. And now, as the darkness grows weaker, as your faith still stands after the storm, you will hear not a knocking anymore, but the sound of a door opening. A new chapter is beginning, and it will bring the freedom your heart has long awaited. Do you see, my child? When your heart begins to grow still, when the noise has stopped at the door, that is when my word begins to resound, not as a sound to your ears, but as a breeze moving through your soul. There are things I do not speak in audible words, because if I did, you would hear them with your ears, but when I whisper within, you hear with your spirit. My word is not merely ink on the pages of Scripture, it is life. For the word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit, of joints and marrow, and discerning the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Hebrews 4:1-2. That very word is now going into the places in you that no one else knows, the places where you have hidden your wounds, your regrets, the things you have not yet dared to face. I do not come to reopen your pain, but to heal it. You may forget, but I do not forget. I know exactly where your heart aches most, where you have built walls so no one can touch. I know of the nights when you smile on the outside but collapse within. And today, I want to lay my hand on that very place, not so you will relive it, but so you may be restored. My word does not only comfort, it carries the power to transform. It does not merely say, "Do not be sad," but says, "Rise, for I am making you new." When I say, "Let there be light," the darkness must immediately retreat. And now, when I say, "Be free," the chains in your soul must break. You have carried this burden for too long, the weight of disappointment, of guilt, and of fear. But I do not want you to continue living under it. Beloved, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:1-7. Newness is not just a fresh start, it is a new nature, where I do not merely patch the torn places, but reweave the entire fabric of your life with grace. What you think is lost, I can restore. What you believe is dead, I can bring back to life. Nothing is too late in my hands. For I am the one who makes beauty blossom out of ashes. I see you hesitating. Part of you wants to believe, but another part fears that if you believe and see nothing, you will hurt even more. You are afraid to open your heart, afraid of being disappointed again. But my child, faith is not a feeling. Faith is the door joining two realms, where you stand between the unseen and the seen, between promise and miracle. I do not ask you for perfect faith. I only ask you to believe enough to open your mouth and say, "Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief." Mark 9:2-4. When you say this, heaven does not demand proof, only honesty. And with a single spark of faith as small as a mustard seed, mountains can move, doors can open, chains can fall. Because the power does not lie in the size of your faith, but in the one in whom you place your faith. My child, understand this when I speak. All things must submit. When I say, "Be still," the wind and waves obey. When I call, "Lazarus, come out," even death must yield its grip. And today, when I say, "Rise," you will rise, not by your own strength, but by the power of the resurrection working within you. Do not fix your eyes on what has not yet changed. Fix your eyes on the one who can change all things. Do not say, "This is too hard," for you are speaking to the one who made everything out of nothing. There is no chain thicker than my mercy, no pit so deep that my hand cannot reach it. Do you know, my child, this is a season of movement. As you listen to my word, the spiritual atmosphere around you is shifting. Doors once tightly shut are starting to open, and places of deadlock are beginning to stir. Provision, spiritual, emotional, material, is being released. You may not see it yet, but you will sense it. A strange lightness, a peace that does not come from reasoning, but from my spirit within you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. John 1:4-7. As you receive my word, that peace will fill every breath you take, and old wounds will slowly close under the touch of unconditional love. But, my beloved child, my word only fully releases its power when it is joined with living faith. My word is like seed, and faith is the soil. No matter how good the seed, if the ground is hard, it will not sprout. I have sown my word into your heart, but you are the one who decides whether that seed will lie dormant or come alive. When you believe, you activate the heavenly current that is waiting to flow. I do not force, I invite. I do not shout, I gently knock. For I want you to choose me, not out of fear, but out of love. You may still wonder, how do I know it is truly the Lord speaking? Look at the fruit. My word always leads you toward life, never into despair. It makes you want to forgive, to love, to stand up again, even when it is hard. That is the sign of a word from heaven. If you feel your heart being awakened, not a fleeting emotion, but a deep stirring that makes you long to be changed, then it is I who am speaking. You need only respond, Lord, here I am. And with that simple response, darkness must retreat, for it knows this soul has been marked. From today on, when you listen to me, do not listen only with your ears, but with your heart. Do not believe only with your mind, but with your lived experience. Each step you take, however small, is activating the power of my word within you. Every time you pray, read my word, or simply pause to say, I trust you, the light spreads further. It is not a light that burns you, but a light that heals, gentle, warm, and kind. And then you will see that what once felt heavy will grow light. What once seemed impossible will start to turn. Therefore, my child, let my word do its work. Do not force it. Do not rush it. Simply open your heart. Let it soak into you as rain falls on dry ground. Tomorrow you will look back and be surprised. Since when has my heart become this still? Then you will understand. It was not you who changed yourself, but my word that transformed you from within. And in that very transformation, you will realize you are no longer the one begging to be rescued, but the one sent out to carry this light to those still sitting in darkness, where I am still knocking, still waiting for them, just as I once waited for you, my child. Now that the light has begun to spread within you, I do not want you to stop at merely being moved. I did not call you just to sit and weep in my presence. I called you to rise and walk in faith. All that I have sown in your heart today needs to be answered with action. For faith without works is dead. James 2:1-7. It is time for you to turn what you have heard into the way you live. You are not only a receiver, you are also a vessel. Through you I will pour out blessing to many others. What I do in you never stops with you, because my grace is always overflowing, like a river that never keeps its waters for itself. I want you to begin with a simple act. Write down what you believe. Speak out what you affirm, or simply pray a sincere prayer. Lord, I choose to believe and to walk. You may think this is small, but in the spiritual realm, every declaration of yours carries weight. Each time you say, I trust you, heaven records it, and angels are sent forth to carry it out. When you openly confess your faith, you are not merely speaking, you are activating the power of heaven. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. Romans 1:0-1-0. Every word you speak in faith is a cry that drives darkness one step further away. I know you may still hesitate. You are afraid of being mocked, afraid that others will not understand, afraid that if you share your faith they will turn away. But, my child, do not forget, light was not made to hide under a table, but to be set on a stand so that everyone may see it. Matthew 5:1-5. I am not calling you to step out in order to show off, but to become a witness to what is true. This world needs to see me through you, not through flowery words, but through a life that has truly been touched and transformed. When others look at you, they will see a peace that money cannot buy. They will see a light in your eyes that does not come from success, but from a faith that nothing can extinguish. My child, understand this. A blessing is truly alive only when it is shared. If you keep it for yourself, the flow will stop, the water will dry up, and the joy will fade. But if you let it pass through you, I will go on filling you. When you lift someone up with a word of comfort, I lift you higher. When you help a person in despair, I pour more hope into your heart. When you share the light within you shines all the brighter. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap. Luke 6:3-8. I want you to learn to live by giving, because it is precisely in giving that you are made full. My beloved child, remember, an act of faith is not always something grand. Sometimes it is simply pausing for a minute to intercede for someone. Sometimes it is opening your arms to forgive, even when it is not easy. Sometimes it is bowing your head to say, I am sorry, or taking the hand of someone trembling in pain. Do not wait until you feel strong enough to act. It is precisely when you are weak that I am strong in you. Do not wait until everything is in place. For faith does not require perfection, it requires a step. Every step you take, I walk with you. Every time you act, heaven moves. You only need to begin. The rest I will do. Do you remember the Samaritan woman, who after meeting me at the well, ran to tell her whole village, come, see a man who told me everything I ever did? John 4:2-9. She had no training, no reputation, yet her heart was ablaze, and that flame drew an entire town to me. That is what I long to do through you. I do not need you to be perfect, I only need you to be willing. Every story you share, every word you speak from a sincere heart, becomes a seed planted in the hearts of others. I will use your very wounds to bring healing to someone. I will use your very tears to soothe the pain of thirsty souls. Do not think that sharing is reserved only for those with a special anointing. You have me, and that is enough. Speak, write, sing, live in such a way that others can see the imprint of heaven upon you. When you do this, you are extending my arm, reaching places I desire to touch but choose to go through your heart. This is your honor, your calling in this season. I warn you of this, not to make you afraid, but to awaken you if you keep this moment for yourself alone. Someone else may go on sinking in despair with no one to rouse them. But if you share, if you dare to speak, dare to step out, you are becoming part of my work of redemption. You are no longer only one who has been saved, but one who is being sent. When you respond, heaven rejoices, because a soul has ceased to live only for itself and has begun to live for a higher purpose. And as you walk, I promise you will never walk alone. I will go before you into each encounter. I will put words in your mouth. I will touch the hearts you thought were closed. Just believe. Just act. Even if it seems like a small thing. For every act of faith is a door being opened, a miracle being set in motion, a soul being reached. When you become a channel of blessing, you will understand that real life is not found in receiving, but in giving. And as you give, you will never run dry. For the stream I pour into you is a source that never runs out. Now you have walked the full path of a calling from the moment you heard the knock to the moment you opened the door. And now, as you step out, you are no longer a bystander, you are one who is sent. Guard this flame, do not let it die out. Let my word resound through you. Let my light shine through your eyes. Let my compassion flow through your hands. And as you do, all of heaven will smile. For one of my children has truly understood to have the Lord knock is grace, but to be sent is blessing. Beloved child, from the moment you nodded and answered my call, do not think that everything ended there. In truth, all that you have just gone through is only the first step into an entirely different journey. I gently called your name in the midst of the crowd, and you turned back. That alone was enough for all of heaven to erupt in joy. I did not call you merely to give you a fleeting emotion and then let you return to your old way of living. I touched your heart because I want to continue writing the story of your life into a new chapter, a chapter in which you no longer live as one who is always running away, but as one who knows you are chosen, loved, and sent. From now on, you will not see life only through the eyes of someone wounded, but with the gaze of one who knows they have a father walking beside them. Step by step, be still and listen. Do not rush. I know very well that your heart is trembling and your mind is spinning, sometimes excited and anxious all at once. You ask yourself in silence, will I be able to hold on? Will I fall again? Are these things I am hearing truly meant for me? I hear all of those questions, even when you have not spoken them aloud. I do not blame you for your weak faith. I understand why you doubt. There have been so many times when you hoped only to be shattered again, when you trusted only to be abandoned, so that today, even as I hold you, your heart still fears. This is just a brief dream. I do not despise your fear. I only want you to know that this time is different. This time it is not you reaching up to grasp me, but me bending down to take your hand, and I will not let go. For a long time I have watched every stretch of road you have walked. There were nights when you curled up in the dark, staring at the ceiling while your heart felt as heavy as stone. You did not dare tell anyone, for fear they would not understand, for fear of being judged, of being seen as weak. So you kept silent, while inside you were screaming. You thought no one knew, no one heard, but I was right there. Every sigh I received, every tear that soaked your pillow, I saw. You thought you were alone in that small room, but in truth I was standing beside your bed, looking at you with a heart that ached. It was not that I did nothing. I was waiting for you to grow weary of trying to hold yourself up, so that you would be ready to let me hold you. You once thought I was silent, that I had turned my face away. In the months when you prayed and seemed to receive no answer, you began to believe you must be unworthy, that I only cared for people better than you. Deep down, you even blamed me, asking, if you see everything, why do you not act? But today I want to speak to you with a gentle, yet unwavering word. Everything I have allowed to come to you has served a purpose of preparation. I have not watched your pain with a cold heart. I have let you walk through dark places so that your faith would no longer be something fragile that exists only when everything is smooth. I have let you taste the emptiness of all earthly things, so that when I knocked, you would know that only I can truly fill the emptiness inside you. The days when I seemed silent were not days when I was absent, but days when I was quietly deepening the foundations, so that now, when I speak, your heart is deep enough to hold my words. You are sitting here reading these words not because you happened to scroll by them by accident. I have woven together every detail from the meetings, the events, the stumbles, even the mistakes you are ashamed of to bring you to this very moment. If you look back, You will see that the pieces that once seemed scattered are beginning to fit together. The times you thought you had lost were in fact only a pulling back so that you could accelerate at the right time. The people you lost, the doors that closed, the opportunities that slipped away, all of these were not meant to erase you, but to make room for what is truly worthy. I have been waiting for you here for a long time, at a mark drawn in my plan, and on the day you arrived, the angels knew. Its time has come. Listen carefully. There has never been a single moment of your life that has passed outside of my knowing. The things you consider trivial, the details that seem unrelated, are all part of the larger picture that only I can see in full. When you play a song to drown your sadness, when you sit in silence, staring out of the window, when you stand in a crowd and still feel lost, I am there. When you whisper to yourself, "If only someone understood me," it is I, the one who made you, who answers within. I understand. You were not born to fend for yourself in the dark. You were born to walk in my light. And what you are hearing today is the confirmation that I have not forgotten you, not even for a single heartbeat. I know there is still much in your heart that you have not spoken. There are mistakes you yourself cannot forgive. There are decisions from your past that make your chest ache with shame and regret when you remember them, stirring a longing to go back and undo them. You fear that those stains make you unworthy to be used by me, not clean enough to be touched by me. You disqualify yourself from the company of the favored ones, convincing yourself God will choose someone better. But my child, I do not choose the perfect, I choose the willing. I do not look for those who have never fallen. I look for those who, after each fall, still choose to return to me. The areas you see as the worst parts of your life, I see as the most fertile ground where I can sow grace and turn them into testimony. Let me speak to you with all the tenderness of a father. Nothing you have done has ever surprised me, for I knew it even before you stumbled. And yet I still called your name and placed a calling upon your life. You may change your mind about yourself, but I do not change my heart toward you. The world may pin labels on you: weak, failure, trouble, burden. You may even add heavier names of your own, but in heaven you bear only one name, my beloved child. I have engraved that name in my heart, and nothing, not even your past, can erase it. Right now, I want you to look back at all those tears with different eyes. In the past, every time you cried, you thought it was proof of weakness, of helplessness. Today, I want you to see them as seeds that have fallen into the ground. In my hands, not a single tear is meaningless. I gather them up, I water them with grace, and I turn them into streams of comfort that one day you will use to uphold other weary souls. The sleepless nights, the sighs you breathed out in the dark, all of that has become the material I have used to shape in you a tender heart. A heart that can feel, that can care, that can understand the suffering of others. That is why I chose you to be a channel of blessing, not because you are strong, but because you have been weak and have been lifted up by me. Do you see it now? That your very frailty is the place where I show my power. If you had never been empty, you would not know how to treasure fullness. If you had never been rejected, you would never know what it is to be accepted without condition. All those broken pieces, when they rest in my hands, will be fitted together into a picture in which others will recognize me more than they recognize you. I want to use the very voice that once broke with sobs to soothe hearts that are screaming in silence. I want to use the hands that once trembled to take hold of another's hand and lead them out of the pit. I want to use the very story you were once ashamed to tell as living proof that there is no abyss so deep that my grace cannot reach it. From today on, do not only ask, "Lord, where were you when I was in pain?" but begin to ask, "Lord, What do you want to do for others through what I have been through? That question will lead you out of the small spinning circle of only yourself and place you into the flow of a greater purpose. I have poured into you things many have not yet understood, not yet known, not yet experienced. You have walked through places where others have never set foot. So when I send you, it is not so that you speak lofty things, but that you speak what is true, the things you have actually lived, the tears you have shed, the moments you have stood up again with me. Your testimony, however awkward it may sound, still has the power to break chains, because behind it stands me, not just you. Do not worry about what you must do, or where you should begin. I am not asking you to suddenly become someone great. I only want you to be faithful with each small thing I place in your hands each day. It might begin with praying for someone I put on your heart, with a sincere message asking how someone is really doing, with daring to say a simple "God loves you" to someone who is falling apart, with no longer being ashamed of belonging to me. Each such action, however small it may seem to you, however unnoticed you think it is one more step in which you push fear aside so that blessing can flow. I will show you the way. I will open doors. I will put words on your lips when you need to speak. You only need to be willing, my beloved child. I want you to engrave this deeply in your heart, every stretch of road you have walked, every night of darkness you have endured, every question that seemed to have no answer. None of it has been wasted. I have gathered it all as a skilled craftsman does, not leaving out a single shard, in order to form a new vessel. You may have seen yourself as nothing more than a cracked jar, without worth, but I delight in using cracked jars, because through those cracks, my light shines out all the more clearly. You will never be useless in my hands. You only become useless when you reject yourself, when you believe the lie that you have nothing left to give. Today, I speak the opposite. You still have so much to give, because I, myself, am living in you. Therefore, do not shut your heart again after hearing these words. Do not treat this as just another passing emotional moment. See it as a covenant between you and me. I have stretched out my hand. I have knocked at your door. I have called you by name. I have reminded you that nothing in this world escapes my gaze. Now it is your part. Are you willing to believe that no tear is wasted? No scar is unnecessary. No dark place is the end. If you place it in my hands, if you dare to believe that, not only will your own life be changed, but the lives of those you touch will also be changed. Take a deep breath and let your heart become still. Let each of these words fall like rain on ground that has been dry for a long time. You do not need to understand everything, nor do you need to see everything. You only need to believe one thing. I am speaking personally to you. I see you more clearly than you see yourself, and I never waste the life of anyone who entrusts themselves to me. From this moment on, you are no longer a wanderer in the night, but someone whose lamp has been lit to guide others on their way. To have me knock on the door of your life is an honor, but when you open that door and allow me to use you for others, that is a blessing you will gradually discover day by day in the days to come. And as you go on, even if your steps are trembling, you will come to realize you have never walked alone, because I, the one who calls you by your own name, am walking beside you, from the beginning to the end. My child, I know there have been many times when you felt as if you were fading out of everyone's line of sight, as if you were walking through life and no one truly saw the fractures in your soul. People saw your smile, saw the efforts you made, but no one saw the nights you turned your face to the wall so your tears could flow in silence. You thought that even I was unmoving, indifferent, without a word. Yet throughout all of those days, I never took my eyes off you, not for a single moment. To the world, you may be ordinary, faint, easy to overlook. But to me, you are a story I follow line by line, a heart whose every beat I hold with care. I see you more clearly than you see yourself, and there is not a single fold in your life that lies beyond my reach. When you sat quietly in that dark room, clutching your heavy chest, not knowing whom you could safely open up to, I was there. When you pretended to be strong in the crowd, saying with your mouth, "I'm fine," while your heart was shattering inside, I stood behind your eyes, listening to the cries that had no words. When you walked down the street with tired feet and a mind in turmoil, I walked beside you as a silent father. There were moments when you told yourself, "If I collapse, probably no one will ever know." But it was exactly in those moments that I was the one secretly holding you, not letting you crumble completely. There were times you thought you had made it through on your own, but in reality, that was when I was using my unseen hands to keep you from slipping over the edge. You do not remember, but I remember very clearly the days when you had no strength left to stand. There were mornings you woke up and wanted only to lie still, because you could not find a reason to keep going. There were times you sat staring into the distance, your eyes fixed on nothing while your heart felt hollow, wishing everything would simply stop. People might call that weakness, but to me, it was the clearest of rescue signals, and I did not stand by and watch. I carried the heaviest part of that burden in your place. I placed my grace beneath your feet so you would not collapse. When you thought you were dragging yourself forward, in truth, I was carrying you over a rough stretch of road that you did not have the strength to walk on your own. Today, I have not come to rebuke you for the times you doubted me. I have come to draw back the curtain that has been clouding your vision, so you can see that I was never as far away as you imagined. The silent stretches that made you think I had abandoned you were actually times when I tightened my embrace. Only your eyes could not see it. Today, I want to open the eyes of your heart so you can understand that my silence is not absence, but love working in a deeper way than you think. I do not only walk beside you, I surround you. I do not merely watch you from a distance. I am present in every weary breath, in every trembling heartbeat. This moment is not just one more time you hear a few comforting words and then move on. This is the time I have deliberately chosen to break down the long-standing wall between your misunderstanding and my true heart. For years, you may have written conclusions about me. Maybe you've forgotten me. Maybe I'm not important enough. Maybe my prayers are not worth your attention. Today, I have come to erase those conclusions. I want you to know that on every list, you are never in the forgotten section. In every plan I make, you have never been outside of it. This is the moment I have chosen to say clearly to you, you are not just noticed. You are cherished. You are not just pitied. You are deeply loved. Before you existed, I had already thought of you. Before your name was written on any document, your name was in my heart. When this world had not yet been formed, I had already seen you with every weakness, every stumble, every regret you would ever have. And still, I said, I want this one. I choose this one. I will love this one to the very end. You are not a mistake, not an accident, not the product of random circumstances. You are the result of a deliberate intention. I decided to bring you into this life at exactly this time, in exactly this family line, in exactly these circumstances, from which I could weave a story that belongs to you alone, however out of place you may feel. You are not an extra piece in any picture I paint. Many times you look back on your life and think, if you cared, why did I have to go through so much? You have confused me with those who left you. You have mistaken my silence for the coldness of people. But my child, I am not like them. I do not deny the wounds they have caused you. I hurt with you in every moment you were wounded by harsh words, turned away, misunderstood. I know there are things you have lived through that made you feel as though I too had grown tired of you. But if I had truly wanted to abandon you, I would have done so long ago, and you would not be here now, listening to me call you. The fact that you are still here, still able to feel what I am saying, is itself evidence that I have never let go of your hand. You once thought you got through the worst moments because you became strong on your own. But I know very clearly that without my unseen hand supporting you, those I almost couldn't take it anymore moments would have swept you away. When you thought you were useless, I still saw in you a potential not yet awakened. When you called yourself a failure, I still called you my beloved child. When you told yourself, no one needs me, I kept saying that you are part of a larger picture which, without you, would be missing a piece. I stand there, patient, waiting for the day you stop looking at yourself through the eyes of your wounds and begin to see yourself through my gaze. These words today are not a polished speech meant to soothe your feelings for a few brief minutes. They are my way of shattering the lies that darkness has been sowing in your heart for so many years. Every time you tell yourself, no one understands me, I want you to remember that I understand even the things you have never said. Every time you whisper, I'm probably not worthy of love, I want you to remember that I loved you before you had the chance to do anything good or bad. Every time you look at yourself in the mirror and see only a tired body, I want you to hear me saying that you are a soul whose worth I myself have set, the one for whom I am willing to pay the price with the very life of my only son. Therefore, do not take lightly each word that is touching your heart. These are not empty phrases. This is my breath being poured into the places in you that have been numb and lifeless for so long. In those places you no longer dare to touch because every touch brings pain. I want to touch gently, not to tear the wound open, but to heal it. If you feel your heart aching, it is not because I am hurting you more, but because what has been suppressed is being brought into the light so that it can be treated. Wherever you have been rejected, I want to pour perfect love in. Wherever you have been left behind, I want to bring you into a place of honor in my plan. You have cried so many times because you thought you had been forgotten. Today I want those tears to carry a new meaning. I want them to no longer be tears of self-pity, but tears you shed when you realize that all this time I have never turned my face away from your pain. Every tear you have cried I have kept as something precious, waiting for the right season to water a new field of hope. Do not think that your suffering is meaningless. In my hands, even your tears can become seeds for a new life that will blossom into comfort for others. My child, I am speaking to you in this very moment, not in general, not to a faceless crowd, but personally to you. I am not saying you all, I am saying you. I am not merely calling a group, I am calling your name within my heart. This is not a cold announcement. This is the answer to all the times you lay there and asked, Lord, do you hear? Do you still remember me? I am answering, yes. I hear. I remember. I have never stopped remembering. And I do not want to answer you with words alone. I want to answer with actions by stepping more deeply into your life. If you will allow me, so do not shut your heart again as you did before. Do not say to yourself, I'll just listen, but nothing will really change. Change does not begin on the outside. It begins the moment you decide you will no longer hold yourself up alone. If you dare to open even a small crack in the wall you have built for so long, my light will find its way in. You do not have to understand everything. You only need to honestly say, Lord, I want to believe that you are truly near me. Just as you say, I will grasp that simple prayer like a slender cord and use it to pull you out of the darkness. You do not need to try to make yourself worthy in order to receive these things. It is not because you are good that I come, but because I am good that I cannot abandon you. My love for you is not based on how you are performing today, but on my eternal decision concerning you. However many times you turn your back, I keep the door open. Even when you deny me because you are in pain, I still wait for the day you turn and look back. I am not ashamed to call you child. Even when you are ashamed of yourself, I do not grow tired of telling you over and over, I love you. Even when you grow weary of hearing the very same words, now I am standing once more at the doorway of your heart, not with threats, but with gentleness. I do not force my way in, I knock. I do not force you to believe, I invite you to respond. I set before you two paths to go on living as though you were alone, or to begin living as one who is covered by unchanging love. The choice is yours. But whatever you choose, I want you to know this: I am still here, still patient, still full of mercy. If right now there is even a small part of your heart being stirred, if there is a whisper inside saying, maybe this is for me, do not extinguish it. Do not ignore it. Do not say, I'll wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow does not guarantee that your heart will still be as soft as it is today. Right now, while your heart is being moved, while the layers of ice around it are beginning to crack, use this very moment to respond to me. You do not need polished words, only sincerity. Speak to me in your own halting language, and I will understand it all. I have waited a very long time to say these things to you, not because I could not have spoken earlier, but because I waited for the moment you were willing to listen. Now you are listening. You are sitting here. You and I are present together in the same sacred moment. So let this moment carry eternal meaning. Do not walk away as though nothing has happened. Let these words become a milestone on your journey, the day you realized you are no longer invisible, no longer the child who was left behind, but a beloved one, seen, chosen, and called. And from that place of being seen, you will be able to see others as I have seen you, giving them the same hope you are receiving today. For, my child, I have not only come to tell you that I have never left you, I have also come to invite you into a new kind of life, where you do not merely survive, but truly live in my arms, with a heart that knows it is loved, with a love that never changes. My dear child, when you begin to walk out these things in small, simple actions, I am not standing at a distance watching like a detached spectator. I am very near, and it is precisely while you are doing what seems most ordinary that I am doing what is most extraordinary. You may think you are only writing a few lines to share, sending a message of comfort, praying a quiet prayer for someone. But in the spiritual realm, those movements are like waves spreading outward without end. In the past, you grew used to a heavy silence, used to feeling that you cried out and the heavens were closed. But now you will gradually come to see that I am the Lord God, who not only listens but answers, who not only observes but intervenes. From the small steps of obedience you take, a new stream is quietly being opened, the flow of my word, my spirit, my giving and transforming work in ways you yourself could never have imagined. In this hour, I want you to understand something very deep. I was not silent in order to punish you. I was silent to prepare you for the moment when I would speak. And now I am speaking, not by overwhelming you, but by making your heart clear. I come not with a thunderbolt that splits the sky, but with a whisper that pierces your soul. I am here. I have heard, and I will act. As you open your heart to receive this, the spiritual atmosphere around you begins to change color. Things that seemed fixed begin to tremble. Chains that were invisible, yet wrapped around your thoughts, feelings, and habits will one by one lose their strength, because no shackle can stand firm under the light of my word. When I speak, it is not to add more noise to your life, but to silence the noise of fear. guilt, and self-condemnation that has tormented you for so long. Remember, the word that goes out from my mouth is never meaningless. It is like fire, burning away what is rotten, like water, washing off the grime, like a cool breeze blowing across the exhausted desert of your heart and carrying new breath with it. When you allow my word to enter, your old thoughts will begin to be challenged. The labels you once put on yourself will have to be reconsidered. You once called yourself a loser. I call you my beloved child. You once thought you were a burden. I call you chosen. You once believed your life was ruined. I say that I can weave something new even out of those very fragments. Every time you agree with what I speak, another link in the old chain falls away, so light that you only notice it when you suddenly find yourself breathing more freely, living more honestly, hoping more naturally. I am sowing strange and wonderful seeds within you, not seeds of fear, but of courage, not seeds of bitterness, but of forgiveness, not seeds of doubt, but of complete trust in me. Some of the words I plant in you today will not show their results right away, but over time they will quietly take root in your decisions, in your reactions, in the way you see yourself and see others. One day, when you stand in the midst of trial, you will be surprised to find that you do not collapse as before, that you do not panic as you once did. It will not be because you suddenly became strong, but because my word has been quietly growing inside you. I want you to be patient with yourself, as I have been patient with you. For every seed from me needs time to mature, but once it bears fruit, it brings a lasting change that nothing can take away. Do you remember the dark regions in your heart that you have never dared to touch, the memories buried deep, the things you are so ashamed of that you do not want to mention them, the hidden corners you fear others would abandon you for if they ever saw? I see all of these, and I do not leave you. My spirit is entering those very places, not noisily, not with condemnation, but like a skilled physician, touching the painful spots with gentleness, yet firmness. I do not want you to go on living with wounds covered only by a religious outer layer. I want to heal you truly, from the roots. I want to cut away the lies you have believed about me, about yourself, about your worth, so that you may be free to love, free to live, free to walk forward without being dragged back by the past. When I speak, I am not addressing only your ears. I am speaking to the whole history of your life. I step into the chapters you call failures, the wrong choices, the detours you have taken, and I rewrite their meaning. What you call loss can become the very place where I sow blessing. What you see as the end can become a comma in the larger story I am telling. I do not erase everything as though it had never happened. I transform it into evidence of grace. One day, the very things that make you lower your head today will be what I use to uphold someone else. You will tell your story, no longer with choking sobs, but with eyes shining because I, the Lord your God, did not allow your pain to be wasted. My child, I do not want you to only listen, feel warmed for a moment, and then stop there. I want my word to become a new foundation for your life. When you choose to trust my word above every other voice, the voice of passing emotions, of people, of your past, of the enemy, you will see the path before you grow clearer. I do not promise that everything will immediately become easy, but I promise that you will no longer be alone. Every step you take standing on my word will become firm, even when the way ahead is still covered in mist. This is how chains are broken, not merely through a single emotional moment, but through your persevering and walking according to what I have spoken, day by day, little by little, until one morning you realize that the things which once bound you no longer hold the power they once did. I know there will be times when you are tempted to go back to old paths, old ways of thinking, old reactions, old ways of coping. That is why I invite you to remain in my word. Let it become the air you breathe, the bread you eat each day, the water your soul drinks. Do not come to my word only when the storm rages, and then leave as soon as the sky begins to clear. Let my word become the sunlight that regularly shines into your heart, so that darkness has no chance to take root. The one who delights in my word is like a tree planted beside a stream. Its roots sunk deep into the underground spring, even when drought comes. Its leaves remain green, and its fruit still appears in its due season, as I have appointed. That is not a fairy tale. It is the principle I have established for all who cling to my word as their very life. My child, take a moment to look back from the time you began to listen until now. Can you sense that something deep within has begun to shift? Outwardly, things may not yet have changed, but inside, the heavy stones that weighed on your heart are slowly being lifted away. That is the sign of my word at work. Do not despise the changes that seem small, a more hopeful thought. A moment when you choose to forgive instead of resent. A time when you choose to pray instead of complain. All of these are the first fruits of my word. If you continue to let that word remain in you, you will see the harvest come, not just one or two isolated stalks of grain, but an entire field ripened in my favor. I have come today not to give you a brief sense of being somewhat okay and then leave you to manage on your own. I have come to establish a new covenant in your heart, a covenant in which you belong to me and I belong to you. My word is a living pledge that I will not abandon you halfway. When I say I will transform you, it means I am willing to walk with you to the very end of that process, even when you stumbled many times. I am not a judge sitting to tally points. I am a father who takes your hand, lifts you up each time you fall, wipes away your tears, and gently reminds you, we are not stopping here. You still have a future in me. So do not close the door of your heart after you have finished listening. Keep it open each day. Continue to converse with me. Tell me about what you do not yet understand, the fears you have not voiced, the desires you have not dared to admit. I am not afraid of your truth. I am only grieved when you shut the door and pretend that everything is fine. My word comes to help you dare to live honestly before me. And from there, to live honestly with yourself and with others. When you live truthfully in the light, darkness will have nowhere left to hide. My beloved child, I am stepping into the whole of your life, past, present, and future, not to condemn, but to restore and to lead. I have come to tell you that not one of your cries for help has vanished into the void, whether your prayer was uttered through sobs or only as a silent sigh within. I have taken note of it all. Now I am not only listening, I am responding with my very presence and with the word I am sowing into your heart. Let these words not merely pass through your mind, but fall to the very depths of your being, where I can touch, heal, and renew. Then you will see from the moment you choose to believe that I am truly speaking to you. The whole direction of your life begins to bend toward a new path, a path that does not lead to dead ends, but to life, hope, and a future full of meaning in me. And as you continue to walk along that path, you will discover something wondrous. Not only will your own life be changed, but the very atmosphere around you will change as well. Your family, your work, your relationships, and those dead ends that seemed immovable will gradually open up as my light shines through each choice you make. You will become a living testimony that I am the one who still speaks, still listens, and still acts today, and that all who allow me to knock, who listen and respond, never return empty-handed. My beloved, from this point on, this is no longer just another moving passage that will fade away like so many times before. It is the marker of an entirely new journey. I want you to pause long enough to recognize this. What I am saying to you today is not a few temporary words of comfort, but a declarative beginning, like a door just opened in the unseen realm. From the moment you agree within your heart, from the instant you quietly respond, "Yes, I want to walk with you," the course of your life has already shifted away from the old path, even if outwardly everything seems the same as yesterday. In the spiritual realm, a line has been drawn, clearly separating the season when you were struggling on your own from this new stretch of road where you walk with your hand in mine. I do not want you to treat this moment lightly, for some changes do not begin with a loud explosion, but with a single whisper that turns the whole course of a destiny. For so many days you have thought you were only waiting in emptiness, like standing in a long corridor with no doors, walking and walking yet never finding a way out. You believed that time was nothing but loss, delay, and disappointment. But I tell you this, there has never been a season in your life when I merely stood by and watched. Those years when you sat in silence after the breakings, those nights when you lay there and your eyes were too dry to cry any further. Every moment when you wanted to let go and end all effort, every bit of it has been seen and recorded by me. Not a single heavy breath, not one empty stare of yours has been overlooked. I have been standing right there, in the very spaces you thought were useless, quietly working on your heart, shaping, refining, and preparing you for this very moment. I see clearly every temptation that tells you to stop expecting anything. There have been moments when dark whispers have echoed in your mind. Why keep trying? Nothing will change. Praying is useless. The Lord has forgotten you. Each time that happens, I see your soul waver like a lamp in the wind. Yet what moves me is not the moments when you stand tall and unshaken, but the times when you tremble and still refuse to snuff out the tiny flame that remains, even if it is only a stammering prayer, a sigh lifted toward me, or just a very small sentence in your heart. Lord, if you are still there, please do not leave me. I count that as faith. You think you have nothing left to offer, but in that heap of ashes I see a small ember, and I have always been waiting for the chance to breathe on it. Today is the moment when I bend down and gently breathe my breath upon that ember. I do not use a storm to force it to burn. I use the warmth of my love to bring it back to life. I have come not to reproach you for having grown weary or for wanting to give up, but to rekindle what seemed to have gone out. I know there are dreams you once buried because you believed you were no longer worthy, promises you assumed had expired, spiritual longings you once had that now exist only as memories. But I am the resurrection one. I specialize in bringing back to life what you have called too late. I do not only want you to survive, I want you to live again, to live rightly, deeply, and in the original purpose I designed for your life before you were formed. Therefore, do not allow your heart to grow numb once more. Do not let petty distractions, fleeting pleasures, and old habits pull you away again from the call you have just heard. Be vigilant over the things that seem harmless yet slowly harden your heart. I do not want you to return to a way of living that merely drifts from day to day, allowing quiet weariness to erode your hope. Now that you have heard, have known, and have been touched, I invite you to choose to live awake not in anxious alarm, but in a clear awareness that your soul is precious and that every small decision you make today is building your tomorrow. Remember, this is an intimate encounter between you and me, not a generic moment like everyone else's. I am not speaking to you as though to a faceless crowd. I am calling your very name in your heart, reminding you of things known only to you and me, the hidden places you have never fully shared with anyone. I touch those not to expose or accuse, but to show you that you have never been abandoned there. I want you to feel the personal nature of my love for you among countless souls. I have chosen to knock at your door, at this very hour, in these very circumstances, This very intimacy is the evidence that you are not surplus, not a substitute choice, but an indispensable part of my loving plan. There are people who spend their whole lives seeking a special sign to believe that God truly notices them. They demand dramatic wonders and extraordinary events. But with you, I have chosen a different way. I let you hear my voice through these very words, precise and gentle, yet sharp enough to cut through every layer of doubt. You do not need to run here and there looking for any further sign, because the fact that you are still here, still open, still sensing something stirring in your chest, that is already a sign. I say to you, the very fact that you are being touched at this deep level by my word is clear evidence that heaven is intervening in your life. From this moment on, things will no longer be as they were, not because every external circumstance will suddenly change, but because within you there is now a new axis around which you turn. Until now, you have lived revolving around fear, around lack, around the opinions of others. Now, I invite you to learn to turn around my voice, around my word, around the reality that I am with you. When the center shifts, the way you see things also changes. The things that once made you collapse will no longer hold the same power, because you are beginning to learn to see them through my lens. Where you once saw only a dead end, you will now recognize a bend in the road that leads you into another way. Where you once felt forsaken, you will now understand that it was a setting apart for preparation. I do not promise you that from now on everything will be smooth and free of trials, but I assure you of this one thing: you will never have to walk through any season alone again. The deepest difference in this new chapter does not lie in whether the storm blows or not, but in who is walking in the storm with you. In the past, whenever the waves rose, you hurried to row and fight in your own strength, exhausted yourself, and fell. Now, I want you to learn to turn to me at the very first gust of wind and say, "Lord, I cannot." But you can. That is the true turning point, not you trying to prove that you are strong, but you beginning to allow me to reveal my strength in your weakness. Let these words serve as a milestone in your memory. One day, when you look back, you will say, "That was when everything began to turn, not because I suddenly became great, but because I realized the Lord had called me by name, and I answered." Many years from now, when you recount your journey to someone who is in despair, you will mention this seemingly small moment as a watershed. You will understand that the very moment you chose not to switch off quickly, not to scroll past, not to give up, was also the moment my hand reached deep into the history of your life to write another chapter with the ink of grace. I also want you to know that today's decision of yours does not only touch your own future, but also the lives of those whom I will place along your path one day. There are faces you have never seen, stories you have never heard, souls crying out in silence. They are on the other side of this obedience. One day, when you embrace someone trembling in pain, when you hold the hand of someone on the brink of giving up, you will suddenly realize if you had also given up back then, there would be no you standing here today to be a support for them. What I am rebuilding in you today will become a place of refuge for many others tomorrow. Therefore, this moment is not just a private matter between you and God in a narrow sense. It is the starting point of a stream of blessing that will flow much farther than you imagine. I am not asking you to strain yourself to carry something grand all at once. I only want you to understand that every small step you faithfully take with me, no matter how small, is quietly clearing the way for other lives as well. As you honestly walk after me, your story will become a living testimony that no matter how far a person has fallen, no matter how long they have grown weary, they can still begin again when they are willing to open their heart to my knocking. You may still feel afraid, still have many questions, still carry wounds that have not yet healed. I do not demand that you be flawless before stepping into a new chapter. I only ask for a willing heart. The rest I will patiently work out with you, little by little. The transformation I promise you is not a dizzying spin that happens in a single day, but a journey in which I take you by the hand, often slowly, but surely. There will be days when you stumble, moments when you step back, but what matters is that you no longer turn your back. Each time you fall, you look up to me, and I will lift you to your feet again. Gradually, you will realize that what keeps you is not your own determination, but my faithfulness. So engrave this in your heart: this moment is not an illusion, not a weak lapse, and certainly not just a passing religious mood. This is my answer to the silent questions of your heart, my reply to cries for help that you thought had dissolved into an empty void. This is how I answer my way, in my timing, with just enough depth to reach the very place you most need. If you are willing to receive it, your life will slowly take on a different shape, not just a string of days spent trying to survive, but a journey of walking with me, day after day, in the awareness that you are loved, known, and sent. Step out of this moment with a new awareness. You no longer need to keep asking for signs in order to believe that I am there. It is your own heart that is trembling, the quiet shift in your thoughts and emotions, the hope you never expected to feel again. All of these are shouting that I am at work. Guard this as someone holding a flame in their hands, knowing it is precious, knowing it is fragile, but also knowing that if you nourish it, it will be able to light up an entire room. I am with you in every small step, and I will go on speaking to you, leading you, teaching you, as long as you keep your heart open to the gentle knocking that I never cease to send into your life. Right now, in the very ordinary space where you are sitting, I am present, not as a vague idea, not as a fleeting religious emotion, but as the true presence of the one who knows your name, who knows exactly where your heart is today, how tired you are, how weak you feel. I'm not standing far off observing you. I'm bending low over your life to speak directly to you, not to a crowd, not to someone out there, but to the soul that is reading these lines. If you let your heart become still, you will sense a strange warmth beginning to seep in. That is not something you are producing by yourself, but me touching the depths of the place you thought had been shut tight for a long time. I want you to receive these words not as lines drifting past on a screen, but as a spark placed into the palm of your hand. That spark may be small, but if you cherish it, it will become a lamp that can shine into the darkest corners within. Do not treat this as just a few idle minutes you gave to a short piece of content and then move on. In the unseen realm, this is a moment that all of heaven takes note of. I am using each sentence, each thought, to touch places you have never voiced to anyone. You may not understand everything, but if you are willing to open your heart, the flame I have just lit will not only warm you for a brief moment, it will slowly burn away the chains you have carried for so long. What I am doing for you today is not a period at the end of a sentence, but an opening bracket. This is not the conclusion of a seemingly spiritual experience, but the first doorway of a long journey. I long to walk with you. You are used to things that come and go quickly, used to emotions that swell and then fade, used to sudden resolutions that flare up and then die out. So you easily think, this will end up just like every other time. But I am not those other times. I do not stir you just so you shed a few tears and then return to your old rhythm of life. I stir you in order to redirect your whole life, your thinking, your way of seeing yourself, of seeing me, and of seeing this world. If you allow it, today's encounter will be the marker that you later look back on and understand from that point on. Everything was no longer the same. I know there is a powerful pull waiting just outside, unanswered messages, unfinished tasks, social media constantly calling your name, practical thoughts urging you to get back to normal life. The enemy knows that if it cannot make you hate me, it will make you scattered, so busy that you have no space left to hold what I have just sown. It does not need to make you rebel, it only needs to make you grow cold. It does not need to drag you out of my house, it only needs to lull you to sleep inside my house, until my voice becomes a faint sound, blurred among 1,000 other noises. That is why I must speak to you urgently. Do not quench the flame that has just been kindled. Do not rush back into the old pace as if this moment had never happened. You have gone through moments like this many times before. At services, in gatherings, listening to a sermon, reading a verse, or just hearing a song that touched your heart. You felt something stirring within. In those moments, you also thought, this time I will change. This time I will live differently. But after a few days, the pressure came back. The temptations came back. The old habits returned. And what seemed to have caught fire slowly went out. I have seen all those cycles, not with eyes of reproach, but with a heart of deep compassion. I see that you did not deliberately cool yourself. You simply did not know how to keep the fire. You thought a single emotional moment was enough to change a lifetime, while I have been wanting to teach you that true transformation is built from small, steady, faithful responses each day. Many before you have heard me in moments like this. They too once trembled at the truth, once felt themselves touched to the very core, but they hurried to judge their own experience. I'm probably just emotional. I'll think about it another time. I'm too busy right now to live this out. They labeled my call as a motivational video, a moral reminder, a cute little message, and filed it alongside the countless other things they consume every day. In doing so, they turned my living word into a harmless piece of information. Gradually, their hearts grew numb to my voice, not because I stopped speaking, but because they became accustomed to hearing without responding. I tell you this, not so that you condemn them, but so that you recognize what is happening in yourself, that you understand you can step into the same pattern if today you choose indifference. I do not want you to repeat that tragedy. I do not want your life to become a chain of almosts, almost changed, almost stepped out, almost obeyed, almost set free. Almost is a frightening word in the spiritual life. Almost means you were very close to the door, yet did not walk through. It means you heard, you felt, you recognized, and then turned away. You can tell others about those almosts, but they will never become a testimony, only a regret. I love you too much to silently watch you live in the land of almost one more time. So today I am speaking plainly. This is not a passing breeze. This is a call for you to decide. Remember, what I am saying to you is not to force you to immediately do something grand, nor to put upon you the pressure that you must change at all costs. I am not a boss who only knows how to give orders. I am your father. I know how far your strength can go. I know which wounds make it hard for you to trust. I know which bonds are slowing your steps. Yet precisely because I know you so well, I must speak to you seriously. If you keep hiding in your comfort zone, you will never fully live out the meaning I have ordained for your life. I am not driving you into a corner. I am stretching out my hand to pull you out of a dark, familiar room and lead you into a wider space, where you can breathe more deeply and live more truthfully. Let this word of mine become a mark upon your heart. It does not need to be tied to an exact date. It does not need to be written down in a beautifully crafted way. But let it be engraved deep within you. There was a moment, in the midst of very ordinary things, when you knew for certain that God Himself was speaking directly to you. From today on, Whenever you are tempted to treat this moment as just a surge of emotion, I pray that the Holy Spirit will remind you of this atmosphere, the sense of your heartbeat slowing, your thoughts growing still, your eyes lingering longer on each word. These are signs that your soul is being awakened. Do not call that a small thing. Many people walk through life without ever once knowing such a feeling. But you are standing right at its very center. You may ask, so what must I do not to miss this? I am not asking you to do something dramatic to prove anything. I only ask that you do not go back to your former way of living as though this word had never been spoken. Do one concrete thing. However small, write down what has touched you. Whisper a few honest sentences to me. Pause a few more minutes to ponder instead of turning everything off at once. Or decide that you will come back to listen more, read more, pray more. These are not empty gestures. They are signs that you are taking what I say seriously. When you do this, you are saying to me, I do not want to let this pass by. I want to hold on to what you are doing in my heart, and I will respond to that heart by leading you deeper. I am speaking to you with urgency, but not in a spirit of panic. I am not saying, if you do not obey immediately, I will abandon you. For my love for you is not built upon your instant reactions. I speak urgently because I see everything that awaits you once you step out of this moment. I see the seemingly harmless temptations that will appear one after another. I see the heaviness that will slowly settle over you. I see the days when you will tell yourself, I probably just overthought things that day. That is why I remind you today, do not relabel what I am doing in your heart as a mere passing mood. When you put that label on it, you unknowingly push my word to the margins of your life. My child, I want to emphasize once more, this is not a short piece of content that you happen to watch just to pass the time. This is a conversation between me and you, between the Eternal One and a soul that longs for what is true. I do not want this conversation to be cut off by the words, that's enough. I want it to continue in the coming days. In every small choice you make, even in the moments when you think I am silent. Today I have confirmed to you that I am present. I am speaking. I am utterly serious about your soul. Now I await your response, not in an explosion of emotion, but in a quiet yet decisive resolve. I will no longer treat your word as something ordinary. I will honor it, keep it, and walk it out little by little. If you do this, you will see the difference over time, not in a single night, but day by day, week by week. You will realize that the direction of your heart is shifting. The things that once dragged you down will gradually lose their grip, and the things that belong to me will slowly become more compelling to you. You will torment yourself less over past mistakes, be less bewildered before the future, and be less afraid of doors that have not yet opened. Instead, you will begin to live like someone who knows that over their life there is one who is knocking, who is waiting, who is leading the way. And from that moment on, you will understand more deeply why I have often urged you, do not take moments like this lightly. For it is precisely in the moments that people deem ordinary that I write eternal turning points for those who are willing to open their hearts and respond. My child, do not be quick to treat everything you have just heard and are now reading as merely a random piece of content drifting across your life. I do not use moments like this to entertain you. I am using them as a doorway opened between heaven and earth, between my heart and yours. The one speaking to you now is not a distant voice, but the one who formed you, who has counted every hair on your head, who has walked with you through stretches of road you yourself would rather forget. I am the one who made the vast universe, and yet I choose to sit down with you in this very personal hour, using your own language, your own experiences, your own pain to speak. That alone should be enough for you to realize this is not a trivial thing. In the spiritual realm, This moment is like a landmark, a point marked by my love and my special care for you. To you, this may seem like just an ordinary day. One more time, you happened to see a few God-related words and paused for a moment. But in the unseen dimension, this moment is like a feast I have long prepared, arranged, set in order, lights kindled, only waiting for you to step in. I do not see it as something you simply scroll past. I see it as an official meeting between father and child. It is not by accident that today your heart is soft enough to stay until now, sensitive enough to feel that you are being touched. So many times before you have skimmed past words about me, but back then your heart was still cold and your mind still tangled in worries. Today, however, something is different. That difference does not come from outward circumstances, but from my own hand unlocking a deeper layer of your inner being. I have waited for this moment, not earlier, not later, so that you can understand, receive, and respond. My word is not like the sentences you usually read and then forget. Everything that comes from my mouth carries weight, carries the breath of life, carries a clear intention. When I speak, I do not speak in jest. When I declare, I do not do it casually. I am not in the habit of making promises just to please, nor of offering comfort just to smooth things over. I am the faithful and true one. Therefore, every word from me bears the imprint of eternity. Even if you forget, my word continues to work within you, weaving through your thoughts, entering your memories, touching parts of you that you believed were frozen. You may feel only a faint stirring today, but it is from that very stirring that a new process begins. My word is like a seed falling into the soil, not falling to lie there idle, but to sprout. If you do not trample it, do not yank it out. If you simply allow it to remain in your heart, it will grow, quietly, yet surely. I know very clearly what is going on in your mind. There is a part of you that wants to believe this is me, that these are words meant especially for you. But there is also another voice, small yet persistent, whispering that all of this is mere coincidence, a fleeting rush of emotion, the product of your current weakness and vulnerability. I do not blame you for such thoughts. I understand you have lived so long in a world where people are easily deceived, and so you have become cautious. But my child, not everything that moves you is false, and not everything that feels strong comes from me. The way I usually choose is very gentle, yet it goes very deep. The enemy, on the other hand, wants you to cover your ears. It pours skeptical thoughts into your mind, just so you will miss the moment I have set apart for you with utmost care. It whispers, "Come on, don't overthink. There is nothing special here." But I am saying to you, my child, do not underestimate what I am doing within you. Pay attention to this. The words you have just read touch precisely those hidden corners you have never fully revealed to anyone. The very questions you have stored away for so long, the fears you thought you had already grown used to. A stranger could not understand you with such accuracy, still less right straight into the very things that trouble you, unless I stood behind these words, using them as a mirror for you to see yourself. I know every night when your pillow is full of thoughts, every time you say, "I'm fine," while your heart feels shattered. I do not only see the actions on the outside, I read the sentences spoken silently inside you, the ones you have not yet been able to put into words. Because I see. I can speak exactly, because I know. My word can strike true. What you are experiencing now is not an illusion, but the reality of being touched by a very real God. You may ask, if this truly is God, why does he not appear in a more dramatic way? Why does he not perform an obvious miracle? My beloved, I can still work dazzling miracles. But I do not want to turn your heart into a place that only chases after spectacle. I want you to recognize me, even in simplicity, so that the love between me and you does not rest on outward displays, but on a deep inner knowing. Long ago I spoke with a weary woman by a well, using only a few simple questions. Yet her entire life was changed. I called a tax collector by his very name and said, "Today I must stay at your house." And all his old habits were broken. I do not need lightning bolts to awaken a soul. I only need a voice that you recognize. Today I am using these written lines as I once used spoken words to touch, to call, to rouse your heart. At this very moment, I want you to know that you are standing on holy ground. Even if you are only sitting in your room, on your bed, or wherever you may be, it is not the place itself that makes this hour holy, but the fact that I am present in it. When I draw near, ordinary things become different. The spot where you are sitting may be the place where you once cried, once grew weary, once wanted to give up. But right now I am turning it into a place of encounter. Just as long ago, I met my servant in a bush that burned, yet was not consumed. I do not require you to come to a majestic temple in order to meet me. I bring the temple to the very place where you are. What I invite you to do, simple yet profound, is to look at this moment with different eyes, not as a brief pause, but as a sacred appointment. If you treat all of this as just beautiful words or noble ideas, close it up and move on as if nothing had happened, you may be able to go on living as you always have, but you will lose a great opportunity, the opportunity to see your life turn in a new direction. I am not saying this to frighten you, but so that you realize that not every moment is the same. Some days simply repeat themselves, but there are also days that mark a turning point. I have given you many opportunities to hear about me, but not every time do I touch you in this way. Today I am doing something special, not because I have changed, but because your heart is more ready, softer, more thirsty than before. Do not let the fear of being deceived make you refuse the truth that is setting you free. Do not let the habit of hearing and then leaving it there make you pass by the invitation to go deeper with me. I do not want you to live with a sense of being forced or under pressure. I am Father, not a manipulator. I do not raise a whip to threaten you, saying, "If you do not believe, then this or that will happen." I only show you the value of the moment you are living right now. I honor your choices to the point that I am willing to wait, even though I could compel you. Yet precisely because I honor you, I speak plainly. There is one who is trying to deceive you into thinking that I am distant and that my words are not worth pausing for. He wants you to go on living in a just get through the day kind of life, with no expectation, no hope, no step into anything new. But I want you to live with the awareness that your life can be different, that the burdens you thought you had to carry to the end of your days can be lifted, that relationships which have cracked can be healed, that your future does not have to look like your past. Be honest with yourself. If all of this were only random, why does this message touch exactly what you have been thinking about these past days? If all of this were only an illusion, why do you feel both pain and hope rising up in you at the same time? That combination is not a product of your own mind. It is the imprint of my Holy Spirit at work. He does not come to blur or dull you. He comes to make you see more clearly, to see yourself, to see me, and to see the meaning of what you have gone through. What you are sensing is not confusion, but an awakening. Your mind is being stirred. Your heart is being touched. Your will is standing before a crossroads. I am bringing you to a point, my beloved child. If you pay just a little closer attention, you will realize that something inside you is no longer the same. In the midst of worries that have not yet disappeared, in the midst of questions that have not yet been answered, there is still a very strange gentleness spreading over your soul. It is not a fleeting emotion, nor just a few sudden seconds of weakness. It is a warm blanket that I am gently laying over your heart. You are still in the same circumstances, but within you something new has begun to form, like dawn that is still dim, yet whose light has already begun to overcome the night. That peace does not come from everything being resolved, but from the fact that I am with you, right now, in every breath, every heartbeat. The warmth that you feel in your heart is not imagination, it is my trace. How many times have you quietly said to me, "If you are really here, please give me a sign." You have longed for something dramatic, a big event, but I have chosen to touch you in a very simple way, a peace that cannot be explained, a tenderness that softens the places in you that had become hard. I am the one who knows you completely, so I know how to touch you in a way you can understand. Do not belittle what you are feeling. Do not think it is only because you are weak at the moment. I am answering your cry, not with noise, but with a gentle current slipping into the deepest crevices of your soul. You have gone searching for confirmation outside yourself so many times through the words of others, through events, through doors that open or close. But I want you to see that the first real confirmation is not found outside your life, but right within your own inner being. When your heart suddenly stops resisting, when you no longer want to run away from me, when, though you do not yet understand, you find yourself wanting to be a little closer to me. That is the answer. I am not playing hide and seek with you. I do not put you in a maze where you have to keep guessing. If you are now feeling drawn closer, if you are longing to hear me more, that means I have already taken the initiative. It is I who first spoke. It is I who have stirred up this conversation. Do not let your reasoning strip away what the depths of your heart have already recognized. Your mind will try to explain everything. It will say, perhaps it is just emotion. Maybe I am just tired and therefore soft. After today, everything will just go back to the way it was. But your soul is whispering something else. Something very real is happening. I am being touched in a way I never have before. You stand between these two voices, and I invite you to choose the side of the voice that brings life, not the voice that drags you back into your old hardness. You do not need to understand everything in order to believe. Sometimes believing is simply choosing not to rush to extinguish what is beginning to burn within your heart. Give yourself a little time simply to sit quietly with this peace. Do not rush to analyze it. Do not rush to put it to the test. Do not rush to measure it by any other standard than this one question. Is this drawing me closer to the Lord or pushing me farther from Him? If it softens your heart, if it makes you want to talk with me, if it makes you want to live more uprightly, then have the courage to acknowledge that it is indeed me. I am opening a new door, the door of a conversation that is no longer interrupted, where you no longer seek me only in moments of crisis, but learn to remain with me in the most ordinary things of each day. This is not a lonely, isolated moment. This is a starting point. I have long awaited this day, the day when you not only hear people speak about me, but actually sense that I am stepping into the space of your life. The day when, instead of asking, "Is God real?" you begin to ask, "What are you wanting to say to me?" That is a very important shift. I am not seeking you merely to give you a few moving moments and then leave. I want to establish with you a real relationship, a back-and-forth exchange where you can bring out what is most hidden in you, and I can lead you step by step. I will not always say the things you want to hear, but I will always say the things your soul needs in order to live, to be healed, and to grow. You do not see it, but all this time I have been quietly preparing things. There are relationships I have allowed to end, not to leave you lonely, but so that you would no longer be pulled back onto paths that do not belong to you. There are doors of work that did not open, not because you were inadequate, but because I knew that if you walked through them, you would drift far from the road I want to lead you on. There are plans you cherish that did not come to pass, not because I delight in your disappointment, but because I am keeping you from trading your own soul for something that would never truly satisfy you. Behind the things that you call out of rhythm, I am arranging new steps that fit the melody I have written uniquely for your life. I have been and am still knitting back together what seemed broken within you. I am touching your memories, your emotions, the places you once froze over. I do not do this hastily. I do it with the patience of a father who knows how much pain his child can bear. At times, in order to heal, I must let you remember part of the old story, but not so that you will be trapped there, rather, so that you can see me stepping right into the place where you once collapsed. From the place that used to be a wound, I will make it a place from which compassion and blessing will flow to others. What you see as ruins, I see as good soil in which to sow a new future. However, for all of this to truly become reality, you need one thing that seems simple, yet is profoundly important. You need to learn to remain. Remain in the peace you now have. Instead of hastily returning to your old rush, remain in my words. Instead of hearing them once to feel slightly relieved and then leaving them aside, remain in my presence. Instead of seeking me only as a temporary shelter in a storm, abide in me. And I in you is not only a command, it is a tender invitation. When you decide to remain, you are giving me room to keep working in you, day after day, little by little, whether you notice it or not. There are so many voices around you, words of advice, words of judgment, words of comparison, invitations to chase after the values that the world praises. If you are not careful, those sounds will gradually drown out the gentle voice you are hearing now. They will tell you that you must hurry, that you must be better than others, that you must prove something. They will push you into a state of constant haste, constant restlessness, constant fear that if you do not save yourself, no one else will. But my voice is different. I do not drive you to run. I take your hand and walk with you. I do not promise that the road will be easy, but I do promise that you will not have to walk it alone. As you begin to recognize my voice, you will find that it carries a very particular tone. It does not rush you. It does not shame you. It does not make you feel small. Yet it does not indulge you or overlook what is wrong either. It is a voice that is both gentle and firm, both tender and resolute. It pulls you out of the vortex of comparison and striving, to bring you back to the original rhythm of your soul, the place where you know you are loved even before you accomplish anything. I want you to become familiar with this voice, so that whenever another voice comes, sowing fear, casting blame, or leaving you confused, you will immediately recognize that is not me. I also want to remind you of this. Do not act in haste just because your emotions urge you on. Some things are good, but not yet for now. Some doors look bright, but if you force them open before the time I appoint, that light can dazzle and blind you. I do not want you to use faith as an excuse to rush into choices that I have not yet set before you. True faith is not directionless recklessness. It is stepping forward at the moment when I say, now, go. Just as Abraham left his homeland only when he heard my call. Just as Israel crossed the sea only when I told Moses to raise his staff. So I also want you to learn to wait for my signal, and then step. In that season, you are not forgotten. Waiting in me is not a meaningless sitting still, but a time for me to realign your heart, to correct your gaze, and to change things on the inside which, if left untouched, would leave you too weak to carry what I am about to entrust to you. A seed does not sprout in an instant. It has to lie in the soil, endure the dark, the damp, the cold, before it breaks through and puts forth a shoot. So it is with you. Do not despise the quiet spaces. Do not despise the days that seem as if nothing is happening. In my eyes, those days are exceedingly precious, because they are the days when I can work deep within you without being interrupted by the noise on the outside. Learn to respond to peace instead of reacting to fear. Whenever a wave of panic rises up in your heart, I want you to return to that quiet place where you have met me before. Even if it is only for a few minutes, with your eyes closed in the middle of a busy day, remind yourself that you have had a very real moment with me, a place where you knew with certainty that I was near. Do not treat that moment as something passing. Keep it as a memorial stone in your heart. Every time you are confused, you can look back at it and say, "Back then the Lord was there with me. Now He will not abandon me either." Little by little, you will begin to see small changes. You will react less hastily, lose your temper less quickly, and be less wounded by words. You will find yourself growing in patience and in compassion toward others, because you realize that you yourself have been shown mercy. These things are not the result of you trying hard to live a moral life, but are the evidence that my word is quietly transforming you from within. This is what I mean when I tell you that a new chapter is opening, a chapter in which you not only speak about me, but bear my likeness in the way you live, the way you love, the way you forgive, and the way you rise up again after every fall. My child, everything I am doing today is only the beginning of a journey far longer than you can see. Do not rush to conclude anything about the whole journey based on the feelings of a single day. There will be days when you feel dry again. There will be moments when doubts return. That does not mean what you are going through now is false. It only means you are still human, with ups and downs, with times of light and times of shadow. I do not love you any less on the days when you are weak. I do not take back my promises just because you are unsteady. I am still here, faithful, steady, and patient, waiting for you to come back and say, "Lord, I want to continue the conversation we left unfinished with you." Therefore, guard this moment as someone who stores away a precious pearl. Do not let it be buried under the rush and pressure of life. Remind yourself again and again of what you are sensing today. Write it down if you need to. Tell it to me every time you pray. Each time you do that, you are letting this conversation stretch longer, go deeper, become more real. I do not grow tired of hearing you repeat what is in your heart. I only fear that you might stop talking to me. As long as you are still speaking, still seeking, still letting your heart be moved because of me, the conversation remains open, the door remains wide, and the plan I have for you is still unfolding. And then, with time, you will look back and realize that this very day, at the point you thought was only a fleeting wave of emotion, was in fact the turning point I had long been waiting to begin. From here on, if you remain, if you guard this, if you continue to choose to respond to my voice, you will step into things you cannot yet imagine, not because you are gifted, but because you have been willing to be led by me. Be at rest. Be at peace. Keep opening your heart. Do not quit just because you do not yet see results. I am very nearer than you think, and I have no intention of stopping halfway. The good work I have begun in you, I will also faithfully bring to completion, as long as you keep holding my hand and walking, step by step, day by day, in this relationship that is being rekindled. My beloved child, when I look into your heart right now, I see a light that has just been lit, still fragile, yet radiant and pure. That light is not meant only to shine for you alone, but to shine out, to spread, and to awaken other hearts that are slowly growing cold in the darkness. I have something new I want to do, not only in your life, but also through your life. All this time I have been preparing you for this very moment so that you would no longer be one who only sits and listens, but one who is sent out. There are promises I have written over you before you came into being, paths on which I have already written your name, miracles I have cherished to give you. But all these things require you to rise and step out, for a promise cannot be fulfilled in silence, and a miracle cannot be revealed in a heart still ruled by fear. You have been touched, but what I desire is greater than that. I want to turn this very moment into a source of life for many. Out there are countless souls crying out in despair, not because they have never heard, but because no one has yet been brave enough to tell them that I am still alive and still at work. They are waiting for a real person, not a polished speaker, not someone flawless, but someone who has been broken, has been weary, has stumbled, yet has stood up again in grace. And that person is you. You are the living proof that I still save, still transform, still enter the life of the one who thinks all hope is gone. When you recount your journey, when you open your mouth to share what I have done, your words become the instrument I use to touch another soul. Do not think you are too small, for it is precisely the small things that have the deepest power to move the heart. A single, honest sharing can rescue a soul standing on the brink. One simple line you write can be the knock I use to awaken a heart that has grown cold for a long time. You do not realize that with just one click, one act of sharing, one word of testimony, I can open doors of grace for others and for you as well. For every time you obey, heaven takes note. And whenever you sow a seed of light, I guarantee that you will reap seasons of blossoms along the road you walk. My child, do not be afraid of being misunderstood. Do not fear people's mockery when you speak about me. They do not need you to be perfect. They need to see me in you. They need to see kindness in the way you forgive, to see peace in the way you face the storm, to see faithfulness in the way you keep believing when there is nothing to see. You do not need to shout loudly, you only need to live truthfully, and that life itself will become the message. Light does not need advertising once it is lit. It knows how to spread on its own. Every action of yours, every word you speak in love, is a strand of light slipping into dark corners that no sermon could ever reach. I know there will be times when you feel you have nothing special to offer. You will think, I am not wise enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. But you forget that I choose ordinary people to do extraordinary things. I do not need you to have everything. I only need you to have me. When you place the little you have in my hands, I will make it overflow. Like the boy who had only 5 loaves and 2 fish. But when he gave them up, I multiplied them to feed thousands. Matthew 1:4-17-21. So it is with you, even if all you have is one story, one video, one small act. If you offer it with a sincere heart, I will multiply it, and that stream of blessing will flow to places you never dreamed of. Look back. Has there ever been a time in your life when someone shared a single sentence that woke you up? A passage of scripture that moved you to tears? Or a story that made you realize I was still there? Today, I want you to become that person for someone else. They need to hear that there is one who never abandons them. They need to see living proof, and that proof is bearing your name. Let the voice that broke the silence in your own heart now ring out, so that those still struggling in the dark may hear that sound and find their way to the light. Do not be afraid to share. You are not promoting something earthly. You are opening a way for grace to enter another's life. Each time you choose to offer me your voice, you are building an altar of light in a world full of darkness. When you share what belongs to me, I will stand with you. I will place the right words in your mouth at the right time, and I will direct the eyes of the one who needs to hear to the very place where you speak. Nothing done in faith is ever in vain. Whether you send a simple message, write a short sharing, or quietly intercede in prayer, every act of yours becomes part of the great web I am weaving to draw humanity back to myself. Can you see it since I touched you? Something in you has changed, not loudly, but unmistakably. You have begun to feel a desire to live differently, to give more, to help someone else experience the love you have received. That is not a passing emotion, but the sprouting of a calling. You are no longer allowed to keep this light for yourself alone, because light is truly radiant only when it is reflected through many souls. I have placed this longing in your heart not to burden you, but so that you would see that you were born for something greater, not merely to survive, but to bring life. And as you begin to walk, I will walk with you. You will see days when you say something that seems insignificant to you, yet causes someone to weep in silence. There will be those who hear your words and find again the faith they lost long ago. There will be those who were about to let go, but through your words, take hold of hope once more. And in each of these moments, I will be right there. I will be the sound in your voice, the warmth in your eyes, the life in every word you write. For when you speak of me, it is I who am speaking through you. When you act out of love, it is I who am walking, using your very feet. My child, believe this. Every deed you do for even the least of these is something you are doing for me. Matthew 2:5-40. Every time you choose to lift someone up, I am lifting you up as well. Every time you help a soul find healing, I am also healing the wounds within you. Every time you draw a smile of hope on someone's face, I'm giving that smile back to you. For blessing never flows in only one direction. When you let it pass through you, it will return to you deeper, gentler, and fuller. Let your heart become the place I can trust to send you out. Let your lips become an instrument that sings the songs of life. This world is filled with shouts, arguments, and anger, yet few are willing to speak words of love. I want you to be that different voice, a voice that does not judge, does not boast, but is filled with compassion. For it is mercy itself that will melt hearts that have turned to stone through hurt. Make my love visible through the way you live. For there are people who will never read the Bible, but they will read me through your very life. If you know of someone who is weak, intercede for them. If you see someone who is weary, tell them that there is still hope. If you see someone imprisoned in sin, do not despise them. Tell them about the one who once knocked on the door of your life and changed everything. For as you retell your own journey, I will rekindle faith in others. Do not let this light fade because of silence. For a light that is hidden will slowly go out. But when it is allowed to shine, it will cause the whole room to blaze with brightness. I want to say this to you. From the very depths of my love, this moment is not only a time for you to receive, but a time for you to be sent. I did not call you to stand still, but to become a messenger of hope. There are so many who are waiting for even the smallest sign that heaven is still at work, and that sign may come through you, through your voice, your sharing, your acts of kindness each day. As you walk forward, you are continuing the story of redemption that I began. And my child, do not be afraid if along the way you meet opposition or loneliness. I have walked that road before you. The world may not understand, but heaven understands. You do not need their applause. It is enough that I smile over you. For every time you do what is right, you are shaking the heavens. Every time you dare to say, "The Lord did this for me," you are pushing the darkness back one more step. You are reconnecting the flow of testimonies where grace does not stop, but keeps spreading like ripples across the water. Now I am calling you, let this light go farther than you imagine. Share, tell, and use every means I have given you to sow seeds. For it may be that just one gentle touch from you today will help someone step over the edge of despair and find life again. Do not delay. Do not hold back. Every action you take today is a brick in the spiritual house I am building. When you choose to share, you are not only spreading a message, you are opening the doors of heaven for someone to step through. And as you do this, you will see wonders unfold. You will realize that the more you give, the more you are filled. The more you speak of me, the more clearly you will hear my voice. The more you share, the more you will see your own heart being healed. For this is the law of the kingdom of heaven: the one who gives is the one who receives even more. You will walk in peace, in freedom, in a deep joy beyond words, because you are living in the very purpose for which I created you. My child, I rejoice because you have heard the knocking and opened the door. But the journey does not end there, it is only beginning. Now I want you to go out, carrying that flame, and let it shine into every corner where your feet may step. Let everyone who looks at you see my light, not through grand speeches, but through acts of love. For once you truly understand my love, you will not be able to keep it to yourself. You will want the whole world to know that there is one who once knocked on the door of your heart, and with a single opening, everything in your life was changed forever. So go, tell, and live as one who has been set free, as one who has been touched, and as one who is doing the work of heaven on earth. I am with you, always, and I promise you this: as long as you allow my light to shine through you, the world around you will still have hope. Now, my child, open your heart wide and offer to me the truest prayers that rise from the depths of your soul. Almighty God, I come to you, trembling, yet full of hope, because I know you are breaking the silence that has surrounded my life for so long. Please let me no longer take lightly the times you knock at the door of my heart, but teach me to bow and say, Lord, here I am. So many times I have run away, pretended not to hear, and used busyness to cover the fear of facing you and facing myself. Please forgive this hardness in me. Today, I ask that you break every chain of doubt, inferiority, and sin that is binding my soul, so that I may freely step out to receive your word. Grant me courage to open every dark room in my heart, hiding nothing from your sight, because I believe you do not come to condemn, but to heal and restore. May your voice become the path beneath my feet, so that from now on I will no longer live by fear, but by your truth and your love. Loving Father in heaven, I bow before you, my heart filled with questions I cannot answer on my own. I have walked through long seasons of darkness, feeling as though my prayers were swallowed up by emptiness. Yet today I choose to believe that you have never abandoned me, not even for a second. Please step into the whole story of my life. Touch every wound, every memory, every shadow I have never dared to face. Turn those days that seemed wasted into fields where seeds for the future are sown, so that I may see that not one tear is ever wasted in you. Teach me to hear your voice even in the silence, to recognize your hand quietly arranging what I thought was chaos. I offer you my weariness, my burdens, and the dreams that have died away. Breathe your life into them, so that from those ashes, a new life may rise up in the name of Jesus. Almighty God, I thank you that you have never taken your eyes off me, even when I felt I had vanished from everyone else's sight. I thank you for seeing me in hidden corners where no one else looked, for hearing the words I never spoke, for counting every tear that fell in secret. I know that without your watchful care, I would have collapsed along stretches of the road I thought I had overcome by myself. I thank you that every time I believed I was fighting alone, in truth, You were the strength that carried me. Thank you for valuing me, for calling me your child, even when I could see myself only as someone lost, broken, and confused. Merciful Father, I thank you even for the seasons when I thought you were silent. I praise you that now I understand it was in those wordless days that you were quietly preparing my heart, redirecting my path, and arranging good things beyond my imagination. Thank you for not answering me in the hurried way I wanted, so that I would not lose the lasting things you are building. Thank you that your delay was not abandonment, but protection. Thank you for using the very trials I went through to drive the roots of my faith deeper, causing me to cling to you more tightly instead of relying only on feelings and circumstances. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.